Hello and thank you for tuning into the Tipsy Polock episode number 10. We're at episode number 10. I can't believe that. Seems like just yesterday we were at episode 9. What's next, 11? It's getting crazy out here, son. After that, who knows? You can't put a lid on me. There might be a number 12. Huh. Yeah. I'm dreaming now, son. Maybe a 13? Come on. Well, on this episode, we went ahead and decided to ask one of our guests, Ryan, to come on back to the show and hang with us right here in our studio. And he just had like his 9th kid, so he'd been looking to get out of the house anyway. He said he wanted to get away from his family for a little bit and do some extracurricular activities, hang with the boys. He told me, talking on the phone, he said he needed to really get away from his family because, and this is a direct quote, newborns can just be so aggravating. So we decided to oblige him and bring him back on the show. And in this episode, we sit down and we chit-chat with Ryan about the probability theories of 9/11. We talk a little bit about Anarcho Capitalism. We drink a birthday cake stout from Icicle Brewing in Leavenworth, Washington. And we try some insanely hot sauce. You'd think I'd learn by now, but I'm retarded, so I went ahead and tried this, and you guys get to hear how that went over. And that's all on this week's edition of the Tipsy Polock. Why, hello there. Warm salutations and greetings from the bottom of the barrel. This is the Tipsy Polock, a weekly podcast where I, Nate Wazinski, hang out, have a beer, and chit-chat with people in my life. If you have any sort of education or you care about self-respect or how people view you, don't tell anyone that you listen to this podcast. However, if you would like to be a part of the conversation, here's what you gotta do. You gotta like us on social media, all the social media platforms, Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Want advice on how to be a good mom to your stupid kid? Maybe you want to rant about how stupid those shitbirds on The View are? Or something you feel strongly about? Women's rights, gun control, comedy, movies, whatever it is, send us an email at thetipsypolock@gmail.com, and we just may read it and attempt to help you out right here on the podcast. Once again, that's thetipsypolock@gmail.com. So one more time, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Instagram, send us your questions and opinions to thetipsypolock@gmail.com, and of course, subscribe to our podcast on iTunes, Google Play Store, Stitcher, wherever podcasts can be harvested for their organs. So without further ado, you are now listening to the Tipsy Polock. He said he should vape before we do our thing today. So I was like, oh, all right. Do what you got to do, baby boy. Just sitting here like, hey, dead asleep.
What's up, guys?
All right, guys. Welcome to another edition of the Tipsy Polock. It's me, Nate, the Tipsy Polock. I'm here with my always faithful Jarvis Little.
What's up, guys?
And we got part 2 with my boy Ryan. Ryan, say what's up.
What's up?
And today we're hanging out.
Yep.
Does that sound good to you? Are you guys good with that?
Yep, I'm good.
I'm good. We need to give Ryan. His cord's a little shorter than the rest of ours. He was born with small cocks. Jarvis, what was that article you were reading earlier?
I got out of it.
Oh, cool. I was like, hey, let's read that on the show.
Exit.
So, yeah, perfect. Let me get out of here.
So it's Jonathan Freeland fired at Netflix after using N-word in meeting.
The what?
The N-word.
What's the N-word?
You know.
I know. I don't know.
The N-word.
Does it say the N-word or does it say...
It literally says the N-word. So in your mind, you're saying the actual word. Am I right?
Yeah. No, absolutely.
So he got fired for that. He's been there for 7 years or so?
Damn.
What did he did it say what he said? He just
no context.
No, there was no other context.
There was no other context.
He just said he used the N-word multiple times.
Multiple times?
Twice.
That guy snapped, bro. He had a brain snap.
But why?
Maybe it was I need to be fired.
Yeah.
but I don't want to quit, so we're gonna go this route.
I'm going to destroy every chance of ever getting a job again
Right.
anywhere. And this is how I choose to do that. This is my path.
Yeah, that's all it says. It doesn't actually say, like, what specifically he said.
What's the guy's name?
His name is Jonathan Friedland.
Jonathan Friedland. You know what's funny about that?
Or it could be Friedland.
Oh, yeah, Friedland. Using the N-word. Naughty, naughty.
Damn, that sucks for him, though.
Yeah.
What was his position?
PR chief.
He's the PR chief using the N-word in the meeting multiple times?
Yeah.
Yep.
That doesn't.
How
add
does
up.
that, yeah, how does he climb to the top of Netflix? How did he get there? How did he get to be the PR guy? And then he's like, a PR guy should know better than that. Something happened.
Yeah.
Something happened.
If anybody doesn't use that,
I think,
But in a meeting,
well, who was the meeting with?
an African American, I don't know.
That would change it a little bit.
No, it was obviously with a big group of people.
Yeah, so why is
maybe he was pitching an idea, or they were talking about a show, so he was saying it in that context. Didn't think it was going to get him in trouble, right?
yeah. Yeah, so he's sitting there and he's like, okay, guys, I got a great idea for a show.
Of course, the PR guy's not usually the one pitching that crap.
Yeah. Oh, right. For sure. Well, I like your idea for the show, but
You're fired.
Do
yeah.
you want to read what he tweeted? Yeah.
Stop the show.
I'm leaving Netflix after 7 years. 7 years a slave. No, he didn't say that. Leaders have to be beyond reproach in the example we set, and unfortunately, I fell short of that standard when I was insensitive in speaking to my team about words that offend in comedy. Okay, so he's holding this meeting. All right, guys, there's a couple words that are apparently offensive in comedy. And among these words are feminism and
Oh, you can't say it this time?
I'm going to edit it out, actually. Yeah. Yeah.
Why? Leave it in.
Why? So our 50s of listeners, so our hundreds of listeners,
So it'll drop down to 49.
our 50s. I want to give a shout out. This is already off the rails. It's 7 minutes in. We're off the rails completely.
We're going to edit like 6 minutes and 30 seconds.
Yeah, we have about 30 seconds of content that I can actually use. Oh man.
You didn't write down anything? Like,
I did. I wrote down relax your anus.
That's the only thing?
That was it. What did we said we were going to play 2 truths and a lie.
Oh, I don't know this.
I thought that was going to be towards the end.
Yeah, it will be. It will be. But no, seriously, what I want to do today is I want to get into this 9/11 talk.
Oh, sure.
So I'm really trying to find a way to segue into it, just kind of maybe talking about PR nightmares and I don't know. What? It still blows my mind. What are you going to...
What?
I bet you he's the dad of the girl at the Kendrick Lamar concert. He just didn't know his place. Frickin' idiot. Rye,
Oh, sure.
what's up with this 9/11 thing?
Well, I don't know. Your buildings fell down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, the Tipsy Polock, everybody. I'm Nate Wazinski. No, so we were sitting there talking the other day, right? Do you remember how it came up?
I don't. What were we talking about? Oh, somebody said something about conspiracy theories. Or one of us read something and somebody said something about conspiracy. So then we started talking about conspiracy theories.
Right.
And things like that. So I think that's how we got into 9/11.
Yeah, we might have even been talking about the last podcast when we actually got a chance to listen to it.
I think so.
And I told you I think I got the lizard people conspiracy wrong.
Right.
Where they didn't come in from outer space. They were always here and they were underground.
Underground or something, yeah.
Yeah, and then infiltrated the upper rankings that way.
Right.
You actually looked into that?
I don't remember. I think I did.
I ran out of time in my life to do any research on the lizard
Yeah,
people, but,
yeah, for sure. And then we started talking about 9/11, and
Right.
one of the things you were saying is when a conspiracy well, like a theory is just a theory, unless there's proof, right?
Or just evidence.
Or any sort of evidence.
Right.
Any sort of evidence. But once there's evidence, then it becomes a probability.
Right.
Right?
Right. Even as maybe an unlikely probability in some cases. But if you do have evidence, then it's no longer just a theory.
Right.
And it could be for anything. I mean, this is how science or the scientific method works as far as trying to prove a hypothesis.
Yeah. And you have to at least acknowledge there's a chance that something other than what was presented initially could have happened.
Right, and that's what makes this kind of, I was a little apprehensive to have this conversation because there's such a, in our culture, if you, and not just with 9/11, but if you deviate from the official story, everybody, you're instantly, labeled as a conspiracy theorist, and you obviously need to go back on your medication. So,
right.
But yeah, there's a lot of things that are really interesting about it. I was into it for quite a while, a number of years ago, but there was a I can't remember the acronym. It's like Architects and Engineers for Truth or something like that. And so it's an organization that has a bunch of scientists and engineers and architects, and they want to know, because as far as the conspiracy theorist stuff, there's a lot of different categories that you can run down, a lot of different rabbit holes that you can run down.
Right.
The one that I really liked the most was the one that ignored maybe the stuff that was maybe true but maybe far-fetched, or maybe ties and relationships with maybe people in government or whatever. If you ignore all that and just look at the
strict evidence,
just the physical buildings and how buildings don't behave that way,
right?
And how structural engineers, they want answers,
right?
Then that rabbit trail was really interesting.
Right. Well, I'll say this just to put you at ease. We've never used your last name.
Oh, well, sure. There you go.
So you're good if,
There you go.
Because this is and can be an anonymous deal. Right. So I really want to dive into it. And if you,
sure.
Later on say, you know what, I don't know if I want that in production, then just let me know.
Yeah, sure.
But yeah, let's kind of start at the beginning, like 19 years old. And I come into the living room and I watch these planes fly into the World Trade Center.
Right.
And it's crazy, right? Because we've never seen anything like that, like a quote attack.
Right.
And it's presented as an attack. You see the press aide or whoever it was go in and inform President Bush while he's reading a story in a classroom that we've been attacked.
Yeah, and doesn't flinch.
Yeah, he doesn't flinch at all. What do you think went down? Do you think that was, I guess we'll just dive into it. Do you think it was
it was one of the
terrorist attack?
Well, it's an interest. So if you take a step back and follow the money type stuff, so there is a money trail, which is interesting in the terms of there was, if you're familiar, well, I know you're familiar, but people that are familiar with trading know that there are options and stuff on stocks, and so you can trade against a company, and so sometimes that'll happen if insider trading happens and there's news and someone will short the stock knowing the company is maybe going bankrupt.
Right.
And so you can look over, of course this stuff is all public information now, but you can look at a number of the airline stocks, and you can look at like the year prior to 9/11, and you can see what average trade volumes are. And then within a few days, 3, 4, 5 days before 9/11, the trade volume shorting the stocks on the airline companies had like quadrupled.
Oh, really?
So, that's odd. And then there was money sitting there, and so those people who bought those options to short that stock or those accounts made millions and millions of dollars. So just the idea that some of that happened is.
Now, was that like a last minute thing? Was that like?
Well, it leads to the assumption. I don't think it's too far fetched that somebody knew something was going to happen.
Right.
And so there.
Could it have been a terrorist organization that invested like that?
Sure. It could be anything. One of the things, like with what we just talked about, I almost said Trump. with Bush being in the school.
Everything's Trump, dude.
Yeah. He
9/11.
He didn't flinch when he was first told, which is interesting because his the president's itinerary is public.
Mm-hmm.
And so how did they not know that the school and his location wasn't a target? And why weren't the kids a potential in danger?
Right.
Just because he was there.
Mm-hmm.
And so some of that's interesting. If the Secret Service, there's a threat like that, they're moving the president as fast as possible to a secure location and probably undisclosed location.
Away from a public itinerary.
Right, yeah, exactly. So just that in itself is a little odd. But then you, like you said, you can kind of go down some of that stuff, and there's a lot to it. But
yeah. So we were talking about the just the towers the other day.
Mm-hmm.
We were talking about a ton of different things, but tower, what was it, 7?
Oh yeah, building 7.
Building 7.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So there was a third tower.
Yeah, 3 buildings came down.
Some people don't know this, but there's a third tower that came down.
Right.
Tell me, why is that interesting? Why does that matter?
Well, so all 3 buildings were steel-structured skyscrapers. And before 9/11, no structure like that has ever collapsed due to fire. And so as far as
ever in the history of
yeah,
skyscrapers.
Yeah, they don't collapse complete and like the smoking gun is the symmetry of the collapse. So it collapsed total. It was total collapse into its footprint and nothing but a pile of dust and rubble.
Meaning it didn't tip over.
Yeah, it didn't tip over. And
it didn't act weird. It acted like a demolition. It was a demolition.
Yeah. And so like building 7, it was a 42-story steel structured building that collapsed in its footprint in 7 seconds. So that's free fall speed, which means that there was no resistance. If you look at the top floors, there's no resistance as it falls.
Boom.
So then you have to ask, what moved that material?
Right.
Tons and tons of concrete and steel that are they're specifically designed not to fall down.
Right.
So what moved all that out of the way for it to actually collapse that fast? And it was never hit with a plane, of course.
Right.
There was only a handful of fires in Building 7.
Yeah, and were they saying that Building 7 caught on fire from the heat of one of the towers?
Yeah, I'm not really sure exactly how, because it's about maybe 300 feet. I think it's about a football field away, or 300.
Right.
Yeah, about 100 yards away from whichever tower is closest.
Were there people in Building 7?
No, they had mainly evacuated because by then, because I think Building 7 came down later in the afternoon, like 4 or 5, if I remember.
Okay, so what kind of offices were in Building 7? Because I remember there being like some municipal emergency services.
Right. So as far as
which makes this interesting.
It is kind of interesting. So as far as I understand, when the city has an emergency like that, there's a place where the mayor and all these people that are fire chiefs and whatnot, they go to run the crisis center.
Right.
So that crisis
command.
Yeah, that crisis management center, whatever you want to call it, I think was towards one of the top floors of Building 7, and that's where it was set up. That's where these people are supposed to go in the event of a crisis.
Okay.
And they ended up just pitching a tent somewhere out of the way. So they were on the ground.
Before any plane hit?
No, after the fact.
Oh, okay.
They just didn't go set up in Building 7. But maybe that's because it was too close and they didn't want to be that close to the towers. It's hard to say. But they just decided not to be in that building, and it just so happened to collapse that day.
Yeah. Is it kind of freaking you out talking about this?
Yeah, it gets a little interesting.
I can tell you're kind of hesitant right now.
Well, there's been people that have come up missing, people that have, because there was a lot of people there. One of the guys actually that survived getting out of Building 7, he was in there and he wasn't supposed to be, and I think a firefighter came in and saved him, if I remember the story right. But there was 2 men, and they ended up getting out of Building 7. And the reason why they were having a hard time is because there was explosions and fires and stuff going off in Building 7.
Right.
And so he finally gets out of Building 7, and his, of course his life is rattled just like everybody else's.
Right.
So he goes on a mission to figure out what happened and why are they not reporting any explosions and stuff like that. And then he ends up not making it. He died a few years later in a kind of a weird way.
Right, kind of like a Clinton witness kind of way.
it's
Like he shot himself 6 times in the back of the head.
Yeah, it's really weird that he like just collapsed or crashed on a straight piece of highway or something like that. I can't remember how he checked out, but
yeah,
it's pretty interesting as far as the physics of the building. So like anytime there's a major incident, like say an airline plane crashes or especially when there's loss of life, it's an investigation. And so there's all kinds of national standards that govern evidence
right,
and preservation of evidence. And right away, there was about 400 truckloads of debris that was getting sold to China as, garbage and debris and steel. And so
nobody's sifting through this stuff trying to figure out what's going on. They're just shoveling it up and getting rid of it.
Right, and that's what's really weird is the steel in an incident like that is going to allow the investigators to chronologically put it together. And in the national standards, it says that if there's melted steel and concrete, that they have to test for explosions.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was NISC, National Institute of, I don't know, there was kind of the
science of concrete.
Yeah, they were the ones that did all of the simulation to kind of explain what happened, but they just did what the 9/11 Commission wanted them to do.
Right.
And so they're like, oh, no, we didn't think there was any explosions, so we didn't test for it. So they didn't even test for explosions. Or
even though there were reports, the firefighters said that there was explosions. Yeah. Witnesses said they all heard explosions. Everyone that was present said that we heard bang, 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 bang.
Right. Yeah, and one of the gentlemen, he was on one of the documentaries. His son was on one of the ground floors in one of the towers, and they actually recovered his body. And the autopsy was that he died from an explosion. His face was blown off. It was pretty gruesome, but he was too close to an explosion is what happened.
Right.
And so then it's like, well, how did we reconcile this? And the other thing with the buildings is the buildings are 1,000 feet tall.
Right.
And the footprint took a full city block. That's how big the base of these buildings are.
Right.
So it's hard to wrap your mind around that kind of massive scale if you've never been on a construction site and see what actually goes into the footings and the foundations to a building like that. It's incredible. And so if you have that much concrete and steel and the planes hit, closer to the top, so what, 600, 700, 800 feet away, you have a big fireball, and then you basically have an office building burning.
Right.
Because it's going to burn it. I think the jet fuel may have hit 1,500 degrees, which is a good, 1,000 degrees or 1,200 degrees below what steel is going to melt at.
Right.
What caused, all of those connections and all of that concrete to fail simultaneously.
Right. At the same
time in the right progression for the towers to fall at free fall speed.
Not just one tower, but like the probability of one tower doing that is astronomical, right? So it's like impossible.
Yeah.
I guess it's probable.
So like what you would expect it to happen is you would have expected so the architects and the engineers for the towers are still alive, and they've openly spoke about the towers were, I don't know for how long, but they for a long time were the tallest buildings in the world.
Right.
And so they built it to withstand I think a 737 impact. They fully anticipated that this could be a possibility.
Which is ironic.
Yeah. So if, let's just say, the building was weakened and there was maybe enough fuel and maybe there was enough stress on the beams in that area where it was the hottest, then you may have seen half a floor collapse and maybe the top floors tip over and break off. And maybe that would have happened.
Right.
But
because it did hit on one side of the building.
So if that were to happen, or there was, like I said, you get, half of that tower tips over and falls to the ground, that doesn't explain how the other 600-700 feet of building is pulverized. And if you listen to the reports for like the fire department, the firefighters, everything's dust. It's just pulverized.
Right.
And he goes, the biggest piece of anything that I found was half of a keypad of an office phone. So what's pulverizing the concrete like that?
Mm-hmm.
And just the scale is hard to fathom how much concrete and how much steel and how big this stuff is.
Right.
And reports of, these 1,500, 2,000 pound pieces of I-beams and steel being found blocks away on the top of rooftops of other buildings and stuff.
Almost like they were blown
out. So yeah, how do you get something that heavy traveling horizontally?
a big ass explosion.
Right. So yeah, it's
Or I guess they could make a case for the force of impact being so much that it forces I-beams out.
yeah,
but not to that level.
But then how do the I-beams disconnect, and what's because they're all connected and bolted and welded together,
Yeah.
what's separating it? And then of course if that was a theory, and one of the theories is that once where the plane hit, that got weakened, it couldn't hold the load above it, which that's not even true, but let's just assume it is. And then those floors smashed onto the floor below,
Mm-hmm.
and then that overloaded that floor, and then you had a pancake effect.
Mm-hmm.
Then you wouldn't have had a free fall speed.
Right. It would
Because-
take time.
Yeah, because every time it hits a floor, it's going to stop for a sec
That makes
for it
sense.
to overload, and then it's going to be bang, 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 and it's going to take a lot longer in free fall speed.
Right.
So, and free fall speed's important. If you were on top of the tower and you dropped a bowling ball in the air and it fell to the pavement, that's how fast the building came down.
Right.
No resistance.
Yeah, that's insane. Especially with, the architects and engineers.
Yeah.
I mean, they know what they're doing.
Yeah. They definitely know what they're doing. And yeah, those buildings, when you can look at some of the early pictures of, the construction pictures, and this is a massive, massive project. And building 7, I think it was built in the 80s, and the official report in the 9/11 Commission report doesn't even mention Building 7. It's not even in there.
Right. Well, truthfully, until we were talking the other day, I don't know if I forgot or if I didn't know that there was a third building
Right.
in that New York block
Right.
that came down.
Yeah, it's crazy. The other thing that was really interesting about some of this is Larry Silverstein. I think that's his last name. He was the guy that owned
Yeah.
the buildings. And if memory serves, of course, I may be a little fuzzy on the details, but I think he hadn't owned that for very long.
Right.
And sometime I think in the summer of 2001, he bought insurance on the buildings.
Okay.
And
Some more money trail.
well, sure, a little bit of money trail, and he specifically wanted to have coverage for a terrorist attack that involved flying commercial airliners into the buildings. And after 9/11, ended up being a big battle. I can't remember how much he paid for it. It wasn't very much, but it was like a couple $1 billion or something. It was relatively, not a lot of money in the terms of big real estate in New York.
Okay.
Right.
Sure.
And so he spends whatever, he gets the buildings, he covers insurance, and then after 9/11, he ends up getting into a battle, I think, with the insurance company because they were going to reimburse him for both buildings as one attack, and he wanted it to be 2 attacks.
Oh.
And so I think after it was all said and done, and it took a few years for them to settle it, but I think he ended up walking away with about $14 or $15 billion in insurance money.
That's insane.
And one of the really interesting things coming from the my construction background was the towers were built in the 70s, which means they had asbestos insulation everywhere. And
Okay.
asbestos, obviously, we know is bad, and you don't want to breathe it.
Right.
But asbestos is the best fire protector that we have, almost, maybe,
Mhm.
at least, especially in the 70s.
Right.
So it's really interesting that there is asbestos beams and everything's covered in there, and yet we still had a fire that knocked this all down.
Right.
That's
At
funny.
free fall
At free
speeds.
fall speed. That's funny by itself, but by law, he was required. Larry Silverstein was required to get all the asbestos out. So he had to have an abatement team come in and bid what it's going to cost to get all the asbestos out of the building. And that's not like something you can just not do.
Right.
They passed a law that this had to be done, and the bid came back at $1 billion.
Yeah, that's a steep price.
So then, how do you afford that?
Weren't even previous to that? Weren't the towers losing money?
I believe they were. Yeah, the port, and I don't think there was a number of floors that were empty, and they were having issues with tenants, and I think they were. Yeah, they definitely weren't profitable.
So you have this building that's losing money. On top of it, the owner gets hit with a $1 billion
have to
bill. Yeah, have to. Like, you got to get rid of this stuff, and it's going to cost you at least $1 billion.
Right.
He takes out an insurance policy that covers terrorist attacks by commercial airplanes. And then how much long do you know the timetable between when he got the insurance
I think it might have
policy?
When he first got it or when he got paid?
No, from when he first took out the policy. Was it after the asbestos?
Well, I'm not sure if it was
Do you
after. I think, I want to say that him buying it and then the realizing that there's an asbestos problem, which seems like a really silly problem for a professional developer to miss.
Right.
But whatever. I want to say that all happened relatively quick.
Right.
Like maybe all in 2001. He got the buildings. He figured out there was an asbestos problem and then got coverage in the summer of 2001.
Right.
And another really interesting thing was his interview. He did a documentary, and back to Building 7. He says...
Did he own Building 7 as well?
I believe... Because I believe he... Because I don't know how many buildings total. So I think he bought them all, that whole little business park, however many buildings there are, 10 or 11 maybe, or 12. I think he owned them all.
Wow.
And
But those three have to be among the largest.
I think so. Yeah, they're definitely... I don't know if there was one bigger than Building 7 other than towers.
Okay.
But, yeah,
Sure.
So he's in this documentary, and he's trying to say, well, we had such loss of life that day, and I just was, talking to the firefighters, and I just said, let's pull it. And that term, pulling a building, is, what demo guys say when they're ready to pull a building, and it is exactly what you think. It's pulling it down.
Yeah.
And then it's like, so...
Setting the charge.
Right. So it's like, so wait a minute. How did you make that decision if the building came down by just some office fires?
Right. And how do you pull it if there's no explosives
Right.
anywhere?
So that would have been a really good follow-up question if you were in the interview and he says, we just decided to pull it. And then it'd be like, oh, so you guys had it rigged with explosives.
Right.
I mean, because then, how do you do that?
Yeah, how do you just say, hey, pull it?
Right. There's no way to... Yeah.
Okay, with what? My pick?
Yeah. So, and firefighter, and pulling a building like that would have taken weeks of a specialized crew to come in and engineer the demolition of a building that size, because you got to take in consideration the building itself and its structure, the material, and what the surrounding environment is as far as other buildings, because you don't want to damage anything.
You're in New York.
Right.
You're like wedged in there between 80 other buildings.
And so you're gonna take weeks and weeks and weeks of planning and wiring the building properly,
right,
for everything to go off the right time. And
because in order to demo those buildings, it has to jump off.
Yeah, that's definitely one way to do it. You put those shape charges at the base of the columns, and everything goes off in the right order in the right time, and basically the building slips because those shape charges can be at a 45 on the I-beams. And like I said, it's all engineered to do this perfectly, and the building will essentially slip off its foundation.
Right.
And it's only a foot or so it don't matter.
Right.
But then the building is then not attached.
Right.
To the foundation.
Yeah. So it detaches, and then for stories up, you also have charges. Correct?
Yeah. At every connection, you have to have a charge going off to separate that.
Right.
Because its only purpose in the universe is to hold itself together, and so it has to fail. And it's not just that in these buildings that a couple connections failed. They all failed simultaneously in the perfect order.
Right.
Well, I mean, the chances of that is, I would say unlikely.
That's a good word for it. It's unlikely.
Yeah. One more really quick thing about the two towers that one of these rabbit trail relationship things that we can go down if you want, but is the obviously the port and the buildings obviously have good security.
Right.
And there was, I don't remember the name of the security company that was in charge of the port and specifically the two towers, but Jeb Bush sat on the board.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, and then there was no bomb sniffing dogs there for a while because I think that for whatever reason.
Because they'd be going ape shit.
They'd be going ape shit, right? And so there's some really interesting things that were going on with just the security. Like, okay, so it would take how many months would it take to wire Tower 1 and 2?
Yeah.
How did they pull that off?
I thought I heard somewhere that they did test for explosives somewhere, and there was, I can't remember the name of it. I don't know.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, it's thermite?
Yeah, actually nanothermite.
Okay.
Yeah, so thermite burns it really, really hot, and it'll melt through structural steel in seconds. And then nanothermite is really just it's a military grade thermite, and it's built on the nano level, right? And so what that does is it causes thermite to it burns that much hotter and that much faster. And that was in the dust of the building. And they have examples of this. They've found this, and they've actually other organizations like that other one I mentioned. They've tested the dust and whatever samples they do have, and they found little red spheres in the dust, and they're perfect spheres. And so they think it's really consistent with nanothermite, or if not identical to nanothermite.
Right.
And then that's where you get the molten steel. Looks like lava. And as far as I know, I think the towers are still the oldest or the longest burning fire on record because they didn't get the fires out, I think, until mid-December.
That's insane.
Because there's firefighters would report this, and then you can see some of the excavators, they would be picking up debris, and you would see molten steel, right?
Right.
So if molten steel is going to melt like that at 2,700 degrees, and jet fuel only burns at 1,500 degrees,
there's no way.
So without a different chemical or a different fuel agent in an open atmosphere fire, you're never going to get that extra 1,000 degrees that's needed to melt steel.
Right.
So, and firefighters had to be careful because you could be stepping on the debris and walking through it, and you could step into a puddle of molten lava, molten steel, and you're going to have a problem.
Do you think there was anybody in the towers, like, taking a shit when they came down?
Oh, I would think so. That many people?
That would be me.
Yeah. Be like, oh, this is how I'm going to go out.
Yeah. Well.
That's awesome.
Because, like, when you're sitting on the toilet and no matter, like, have you ever had one of those moments where you're like, I couldn't pinch this off and wipe it if a plane hit this building?
Were you at the last podcast? Because I had a really hard time not grabbing myself on the freeway.
That's right. Yeah, like yeah. I don't care if a plane's coming.
Yeah. That was another thing that was interesting. I don't know if we talked about this the other day, but because those type of buildings are type 1 buildings, I think is what they call it.
Mm-hmm.
And so firefighters don't worry about type 1 buildings coming down usually. That's why the firefighters were in the building.
They ran in.
Yeah, because
there's no risk.
As far as I know, firefighters don't run into buildings that they think are going to collapse. If a house is going to collapse, they don't go in.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that presents an interesting question as to why were the firefighters in there in the first place if the building had a potential of collapsing.
Right, sure. Also, because this was such, obviously a building structure in New York City, such tragedy, what building codes have been changed since,
Right, that's a great question. Yeah, probably none.
Yeah.
Obviously the structural engineers would be like, oh, okay, well, we got to change how we're building buildings, but
nothing changed.
Nothing changed. So weird.
Yeah, right. So let's talk about the airplanes then.
Okay.
Plane 1 hits.
Right.
Everybody's freaking out.
Right.
Then was it plane 2? what's interesting about plane 2?
Oh, yeah, there's some weird anomalies when you look at the footage. It looks like there's something attached to the bottom of the plane.
Yeah, it's not a commercial airplane.
No, it doesn't look like a commercial airplane, and there are
It's
reports.
not a commercial airplane. It's a military airplane.
Yeah, there's
Really?
a couple eyewitnesses that don't see any windows. It doesn't look like it.
I did not know that.
Yeah, if you look at the pictures that like Time Magazine and the New Yorker and all these media outlets put out,
Yeah.
it's a picture of that plane going into the tower, and you can tell it's not a commercial airplane just by looking at it. On the bottom, if you look at the bottom of a 747,
yeah,
it's smooth. There's nothing on it, right? When you slow down, there was a guy who took the footage, slowed it down, and watched it frame by frame. When the plane, was it plane 2 or was it plane 1?
Yeah, so it was this plane 2, because there was only ever the one accidental footage of plane 1 because no one knew anything that was happening.
Right.
So yeah, you were talking about plane 2.
Right. So plane 2 goes to hit the tower.
Yeah.
And it kind of is tilted right before it impacts.
Okay.
You can see on the bottom that there's something attached, and there's a flash of light right before it goes in. So if you look at that picture, you see that.
Oh, yeah.
You see that thing attached?
Yeah.
Which a normal 747 has a smooth underbelly.
It's just smooth.
So,
but right before it hits the building,
Yeah.
there's a flash that goes off. And you can see it from like 3 or 4 different angles. And it's clear that it's not a reflection off the glass, but something
popped.
Something went off before it hit.
Yeah, you can clearly see that in that picture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's something interesting too. Like it's clearly not a commercial airline. It's not a 747, but it is consistent with the military. I can't remember the name of the airplane.
Yeah, well, I think it is. It's still the Boeing 747. It's just not. It's just a militarized.
Oh, okay.
Right, as far as I understand, because the military obviously uses Boeing airplanes.
Sure.
And so so it's that was the theory. It didn't have windows, and that was reported on the news that morning.
Right.
As people were saying, it had a weird blue logo, and there was no windows. So
a circular blue logo, right?
Didn't look like it was a commercial airliner. And then with the pictures of, there's a number of things that the military uses, radar, different stuff that they'll attach.
Surveillance.
They'll attach things that kind of look odd to planes, and they definitely have a 747 that has a weird tubular. Can't remember what it was actually called, but it's attached to the bottom of the plane. And so the reason why it's interesting is when you ever have a weird piece of evidence like this that seems to not be answered, and it contradicts the official story. It's just when you get 1,000 pieces of these weird things that, okay, well, how does this make sense?
Right.
At what point does the official story become the least probable, story there is?
Right.
So
how did we decide to run with that story then? Why? Why would we run with the story that doesn't make sense?
Well, I think so many people, they don't want to believe. That's the easy story to believe. That's what makes them feel safe.
Sure.
In that sense. And so, because the alternative is that they were lied to by the people that were in elected office.
Right, that they voted for.
And that's horrifying to think that it's bad enough if they're, it's just scary, and they're just not going to go that route.
Yeah.
Because then you really got to question your whole worldview at that point.
Yeah, no kidding.
So, yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about the Pentagon.
Oh, yeah, the Pentagon, that was fun.
Yeah, so the report... yeah, it was. So there we were. So the Pentagon, right? The report was that there was a plane that struck the Pentagon, pierced how many levels of wall?
Yeah.
Like 5? 3?
Well, they have those rings. If you look at the Pentagon from an aerial photo, there's the outer ring, and then can't remember how many there are, but it's about 9 feet of concrete, reinforced concrete in total.
Right. Which is insane.
So it's a shit ton of concrete.
Yeah.
And that kind of concrete with that kind of reinforcement is...
Here's the thing that blows my mind is that there is not one picture of an airplane.
Right.
Not,
the most secure building.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
not one. It shows rubble. Here, look it up. Look it up on your computer. What would he type in? Pentagon 9/11.
9/11. Yeah.
Yeah, just Google a picture.
You won't even see a wing. You won't see a piece of luggage. You won't
Nothing.
see a tire. You won't see anything because... Yeah, you won't even see...
Just say, yeah.
Even the light
This is
posts.
the autofill in.
Even that one.
Even the light posts weren't even knocked down.
No plane.
Yeah. No.
Not a wing, not a tail. And have you ever seen... Okay, so Google image a... Wow. Yeah, Google image a plane wreck. Just...
Yeah. Yeah, it's a mess. Commercial airliner crash is messy.
Well, I want you to see a picture of the wreckage specifically. Because when commercial planes crash... Like, what's that?
Yeah, there's luggage and
Jeez.
clothes and
That one's brutal.
Ooh.
all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, so...
Yeah, you'll see bits and pieces.
Yeah, you'll see bits and pieces of the airplane, right?
Yeah.
With this Pentagon deal, go back to the Pentagon. There's nothing.
Yeah.
There's not an engine. There's not a wing. There's not a tail. Nothing.
Yep.
As a matter of fact, they were saying that there was a couple pictures of these. So the engines on those airplanes are essentially Rolls-Royce engines. They're made by the Rolls-Royce company. I can't remember the name of the specific name of the engines, but they're like 9 feet. 9 feet?
Yeah, I think the turbine fan is 9 feet across, and they weigh like 8,000 pounds or something like that, 7,000 pounds. So they're huge,
Right?
and there's no plane parts, wings, nothing.
Plus, if it were to hit that, Jarvis, look at this. Look how this collapses, right? So the roof collapses down. Boom.
Mm-hmm.
The tail would have struck that.
Yeah, yeah, it would have hit the roof line there.
Yeah, that tail would have hit the roof line. There's no damage to that roof line.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing that's odd about it, the Pentagon being one of the most secure buildings in the world, doesn't have any video footage at all. It has one little frame or 2 frames of a camera.
Wasn't it from like a gas station though?
No, the one that they show all the time is the video footage that shows basically the fireball, but you can't see the plane. There's no plane.
There's no plane.
Just a fireball. But the interesting thing about the gas station across the street that had a perfect view of it, that would have had a really great angle of the plane hitting the Pentagon.
Right.
The FBI was over there within minutes and confiscated their surveillance footage.
Did you hear that?
No, repeat that.
Yeah,
Sorry.
the gas station across the street that had cameras and everything.
Yeah.
They had footage that would have showed the plane perfectly, and the FBI was over there within minutes confiscating that.
Really?
And so,
And it's never been released.
yeah, it's never been released, which is odd.
Wow.
Because all you'd have to do to prove that a plane hit it would be to release the footage.
Yeah.
So it's kind of interesting.
The reason why they didn't release it is because apparently it was a missile.
Yeah.
Because if you look at the flight path that the plane would have had to take, it's nearly impossible for even a trained pilot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they've put, as far as the official story goes, right, there's a flight path, and he does a pretty crazy corkscrew dive.
Like this.
And they've put that into simulators, and professional commercial airline pilots, they have they can't even make it to the building. They crash. It's almost impossible to mimic, apparently, the plane that hit the Pentagon. They can't mimic that. But yeah, pretty.
And
crazy.
also the light poles. The light poles in the back.
Yeah, none of them get knocked down by the wings of the supposed airliner.
See anything?
No, I just saw a flash of light.
Yeah.
And then the explosion.
You would have thought that even if the plane was doing 400 or 500 miles an hour, which I don't know if it could do, you would
still be able to
see it.
Yeah.
So whatever hit the building awful fast. But
Jeez.
yeah, it is interesting.
Wow. I mean, if you look, that's a missile, man.
I know. I passed it
it's
perfectly
hard.
too.
This is what I like about some of these, because if you try to get into arguments or debates about something, one thing is I don't know what it is, but it sure looks like I can kind of say I know what it's not.
It's not an airplane.
So if you can point out some things that, okay, the official story is false, then you can kind of take the next baby step to, well, why is it false? And what would be the point of not having a real investigation and showing what happened? One of the things that's really kind of appalling in the 9/11 Commission report is it flat out says that they don't know who funded 9/11, and it's ultimately of no consequence.
That's interesting, right?
So it's not important with all of the money laundering and anti-terrorist laws that we have as far as payments go and money.
Like that's we don't care.
Who paid for it don't matter, and that's kind of odd.
Yeah, because without the backing, that doesn't happen,
Yeah,
right?
So it was kind of a really weird thing to say in an official report.
Right.
But
That's really interesting. Okay, so now what about the other plane that crashes in a field?
Oh, the one in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, so there's another airplane that crashes in a field in Pennsylvania, right?
Mm-hmm.
Again, no airplane.
Yeah, that one's weird. That whole
as if these other two areas aren't bizarre enough.
Yeah, it's really bizarre. I'm not really sure what even to make about that one, because there doesn't seem to be any wreckage. It's just a hole in the ground with a couple fires smoldering, but there's no fuselage or anything like that.
Right.
And so that one just doesn't even make sense. I don't even know what to make of that.
Yeah, there was no pictures of wreckage, no, like you said, no luggage, nothing, no bodies.
I even think there was a quote from a coroner that was on site, and he was just like, there's nothing for me to do here. There's no bodies here.
Oh, right.
So it's like, well, okay, there's supposed to be, I don't know how many passengers are on a commercial airliner, at least a couple hundred, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, weird. Very weird.
Yeah, super weird.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. Okay, we got the towers, Silverstein. We have the Pentagon. Oh, what area of the Pentagon was attacked or was struck?
Yeah, so I might be a little fuzzy on the details, so anybody can do your own research in this kind of stuff.
Sure.
I always recommend everybody do your own research.
A shitty podcast, so.
Yeah, well, I think it was on September.
What?
I'm doing my research right now.
Jarvis is a day ago. He was like, "I don't want to do conspiracy theories." Now he's like,
that's hilarious.
Entrenched.
I'll send you the one that's really good about the structure and stuff. That one's really good. Because it's hard to you get all of these specialists and all of these professionals that this is what they've done for 10, 20, 30 years.
Right.
Is, and then you get all of these people asking the same question, and, well, why aren't we having a real investigation?
Right.
You can't show up with your, preconceived idea and then only pick out the evidence that supports it. That's not how investigations work. But I think, back to your question on the Pentagon, I think it was September 9th or 10th, so a day or two before, Donald Rumsfeld, at the time Secretary of Defense, he comes out and basically says, we've lost $1 trillion. We don't know where $1 trillion went. It's just gone. And there was, as far as I remember, there was a investigation into where that money had gone, and everybody and all the documentation that was responsible for that investigation were either destroyed or killed in the explosion that happened at the Pentagon.
That's insane.
So there's some weird things that are coincidental like that. Same with Building 7. I think it was the SEC, the Security and Exchange Commission, had a field office in one of the top floors of Building 7. And they housed all of the, because remember this was 2001.
Right.
So they housed all of the investigation and documentation on like WorldCom and Enron and a handful of other big corporate scandals,
Right,
fraud
right.
cases, and all of that just went poof because Building 7 came down.
They had to pull it.
That's convenient. You know, at some point you have to like start asking yourself, like, man, there's a lot of really convenient things happening for this group of people over here. Is it beyond the scope of possibility that they were involved?
Right.
Maybe they weren't. I don't know. But
Yeah, it's all speculation.
it is all speculation.
Until we are allowed to, follow the trail.
I think the one way that you can say it is yes, maybe this is a conspiracy theory or conspiracy probability, however you want to word it. But so is the 9/11 Commission report.
Right.
That's a conspiracy theory as well.
Sure.
I mean, so what? I guess what you got to do is put the evidence, just like any real investigation, put the evidence on the table and follow the evidence.
Yep. That's what's interesting about this is like, growing up with a dad as a detective, one of the things that he always said is you don't make a predetermined judgment.
Right.
And then try and make the pieces fit what you think happened. You essentially dump the puzzle out on the table and you start putting the pieces together.
Right.
Because eventually it's going to make a picture.
Right, and then you get things like the 9/11 Commission report was 100% controlled by the administration.
Right.
Nothing went in there that they didn't pre-approve of. Bush and Cheney would only. I don't think they ever did any interviews or questioning under oath, and they never did it separately. They always demanded that they be interviewed and questioned together. And then you have the whole NORAD situation. At the time, on the morning of September 11th, NORAD is the North America Defense Network, whatever the acronym stands for. So they're in charge of the airspace and defending the airspace.
Right.
And so they were running war games the morning of 9/11 that would insert radar blips into their system to do an exercise of planes being hijacked, and in some cases flown into the World Trade Center. And so that happened to be on the morning of 9/11. Nobody can tell what's real world and what's exercise.
Wow.
And so their response, the F-18's response to snap to where the planes are being hijacked, they're like 45 minutes behind, which NORAD had 100% success rate, and then they failed 4 times in one morning.
Right. So they succeed they've never failed.
Yeah. I mean, these guys are the elite of the U.S. military. These guys don't fail.
Right. And then on the morning of 9/11, they fail 4
times. 4 planes.
4 planes.
Crazy. So, yeah. It can be really an interesting topic. A lot of people can get emotional about it, and then that's because you don't want to upset people either. But at the same time, it's like, well, I think we should be able to ask some questions.
Yeah, I think if you're set out to offend or if you set out to upset people, I think that's one thing. But I think uncovering truth, people are naturally going to get offended because it's uncomfortable, it's scary.
Right.
That's just the way it is.
Yeah.
And I don't think I don't have a problem with doing that at all.
Right.
Speaking the truth.
No.
And
well, and part of it too is it's kind of like this was the catalyst that led us into now a 16 or 17 year war.
Right.
However many people in 9/11 died, 2,700 or so Americans.
Right.
We've lost double that in U.S. servicemen in the wars that came after that, and like 1 million Iraqis have lost their lives for the actions of the U.S. government.
Right.
Whatever military actions we've taken. There's been about 1 million Iraqis that have died since 9/11, and and then of course Bin Laden, he was hunted for years, and he eventually ended up getting killed. So then
he was a CIA operative, right?
Yeah, in the 80s. Yeah, he worked for the CIA, which that happens quite a bit. CIA, turn people and then they end up having to clean up their mess later or whatever. But the people who have benefited from the 9/11 attack has been largely the military and industrial complex, people in power, people that have made, billions of dollars that came as a result of 9/11.
Yeah. It's almost more safe to believe in lizard people.
For sure. For sure.
It's a lot less scary.
Yeah, because they probably don't exist. But the people that are at the, in the power structures, then you really start to get a little spooked.
Like these real people that are evil human beings who...
Yeah, I don't remember who it was, but I think he was in Bush's administration, and it must have been maybe before Bush was president, but I think it was in 99 or so. They were saying for the foreign policy to basically go the direction that they wanted it to go, America needed another catastrophic and catalyzing event like a new Pearl Harbor.
That's insane.
So then you have people that actually say that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? Because after Pearl Harbor, America didn't want to be involved in World War II. And then after Pearl Harbor, 1 million men enlisted. 1 million U.S. men enlisted in World War II. Because of, how upset everybody was about the attack on Pearl Harbor.
Man, that's insane.
It's a lot of people. And so, if you have maybe nefarious ideas of foreign policy, or you have companies, you own companies that are making whatever, weaponry and whatever, and so you're like, okay, well, what is it going to take to drag America into an expensive war? And then they end up pocketing the profit.
Sure. Do you remember where you were when the planes hit? Where were you at?
I had just joined the labor's union, and I was working at the steam plant, and I had pulled into work. I had a 1990 Ford Bronco, and so I had the top off. And, it was really warm day. It was nice. And I remember hearing the first plane on the radio, like right when I pulled in. And I remember thinking vividly, like, what kind of dumbass commercial pilot is going to hit a building that big?
Right.
I mean, I remember thinking, like, how do you do that without trying? You know what I mean?
Right.
Mm-hmm. And then I ended up turning my truck off, just thinking that it was an accident.
Right.
Just a fluke airplane accident. And then walked up to the job shack, and everyone's like, oh, did you hear about the accident? So we thought it was just I'm sure maybe a lot of people thought that, just an accident.
Right.
And then everybody started freaking out when the second plane hit.
Right.
That was like, okay. And so they sent us all home for the day and said, it took about a couple hours, and then America's in a state of panic. Everybody go home. So it was kind of a crazy experience.
That is crazy. Do you remember where you were at, Jarvis?
Yep. I just graduated that year.
Okay.
From high school.
Just baby Jarvis?
I was sleeping. I didn't even know anything was going on until my friend called me.
Really?
And then I turned on the TV.
So when he called you, what'd he say?
He's like, did you see the news? I was like, what are you talking about? He was like, plane crash, Twin Towers.
Damn.
I was like, what? So I turned on the TV and started watching.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was half asleep too.
Did it freak you out? Not really.
Not really.
I was in an internship program, and we were living at this house. Like, there was a couple of us interns living with a family who volunteered to take interns in, and I was sleeping too. One of the guys who lived in the house came and woke me up.
Yeah.
Screaming that America was under attack. That's how I woke up that day. America is under attack. Yeah. And so I get up in a panic.
Naked? And you ran home?
I was in my sweats, and I just ran upstairs watching TV. I'm like, you idiot. We're not under attack. Plane flew into a building.
Oh, funny.
And then we start watching more, and there was another plane. It was like crazy.
One of the things that was really interesting is the BBC was talking about. There's a lady standing there with a live. You know how the reporters would stand like in studio, but they have a live shot of the city skyline behind them, and so you can see the smoke and everything. And she's standing there talking, and on the bottom of the screen.
So there's a lady standing there on the BBC.
Yeah, so she's
the big black.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I don't know about that. But yeah, so she's standing there and she's reporting whatever, and on you know how the ticker on the bottom of the screen it says World Trade Center collapse, and she's going through that Building 7 is collapsed, and in the live shot behind her, Building 7 is still there, and it's still standing. And
then how can that be, Ryan?
Well, you know, there's maybe someone doctored all of the footage that day.
Yeah. Going back to the Pentagon real quick, you know what's interesting? One of the things that's interesting about the footage that the Pentagon released is the timestamp is September 12th.
Yeah.
Really?
I forgot about that. Yeah, it looks weird.
The official timestamp that the Pentagon released
on an official video clip that the world was waiting for, that they vetted, that they're going to release as the only evidence of what hit the building, they get the date wrong. Come on.
Man.
And you know what's really funny is when you have conversations like this conversation with people, everything that you're saying and every, like, hey, that's weird or that weird is results in that's a straw man argument. You're picking and choosing. And so after a while, it's like, man, how many straw men does it take to like get you to just ask the question that maybe the official story is less than true?
Right. Yeah, because if you read the official story or you follow the official story, there's no, I mean, it's less probable than what the evidence is telling the world. And we don't even know the full scope of the evidence because a lot of it was scooped up, buried in some cases. So like they brought in dump trucks of dirt to the Pentagon, right?
Yeah, and they fixed the yard, buried everything, and
they didn't test the ground. They didn't none of that for ecology. You know, if there was any damage to the earth or anything like that. Yeah,
because technically, according to the official story, that particular airliner had the majority of its, 6,000-7,000 gallons worth of fuel, and maybe actually more.
Was that an intercontinental flight?
I think it was, which is why it had so much fuel. So if you would have dumped that much fuel in the dirt, that would have been an hazardous waste that would have needed to be dealt with properly. But I mean, the other thing that was interesting about the towers is two things that I just remembered. Is one of the passports that of the hijackers they found in the rubble of the building. So
of the trade towers?
Yeah. So apparently it survived the fireball.
Okay.
And then it just magically landed on top of the rubble somewhere, fully intact, not burnt, not damaged. And then the black box of the airliners. I think this was a firefighter that went around with the FBI looking for the black box.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was pretty guarded secret. I don't remember what they ended up doing with them, but because that would have been all the flight data.
Right.
Is that better?
Sorry, I was trying to adjust my mic during that whole little thing, but yeah.
So yeah, kind of an interesting.
So they find the passport, right?
Yeah.
But didn't you say that they take that evidence and they're talking about it and some student stands up?
Oh, that's right. Yeah, some student stands up and says, "Hey, that's me. That's my picture." And they obviously had the wrong dude.
Jarvis, are you hearing this?
So yeah, crazy.
They said they found a passport and they're showing it in some, what was it, debriefing or
something like
some
that?
Shit?
I don't know. I haven't seen that in a long time, but yeah. So it's like an auditorium in this
and he's supposed to be one of the hijackers, and a student stands up in the audience and says, "That's my picture."
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the last time I checked,
that's me.
that's me. Yeah, there was a handful of those guys,
Wow.
a handful of the hijackers that were actually still alive. Like they're proven to still be alive, and the FBI is like, I'd have to
Shady
research
stuff,
that a little
man.
bit more, but yeah,
Shady stuff.
it's just,
Yeah, that's crazy.
it's all shady.
Yeah.
Well, there was 3 cameras on top of the Pentagon.
Right. And
Yeah.
none of them
On
caught.
the side, yeah.
Yeah, none of them caught the footage.
None of
I
them
know,
caught the
right?
footage.
The most secure. It's like the beacon of American security.
Yeah.
And there's not one video of a
Yeah.
fucking
know.
plane
I know.
flying into the side.
And they're worried
Mhm.
about the gas station's video
Right.
across the street.
Yeah.
And then, of course, they have cameras in the hallways too, so there was
Mhm.
no video footage of what happened in a hallway.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
crazy. Yeah, it's an interesting.
I wonder
Story.
still though, with all the evidence laid out on the table, I wonder so what is the thread that links all 3 of the crash sites together? Like we have Silverstein in the towers, we have the Pentagon, and we don't know who backs the Pentagon thing, right? I mean, how is that thread joined? Is it 3 separate instances, or is it?
No, I think no. I mean, like the FBI was involved with the bombing in '93, right? The World Trade Center was bombed in '93.
Right.
Remember? And so that wasn't enough. If you look at some of the other theories and stories, that wasn't enough to really drag us into any major conflict.
Right.
So I think, if there was, and maybe it wasn't the administration, maybe the administration had nothing to do with it, but
Sure.
it had to be one attack that had 4 different prongs to it in case, so something was going to happen.
Yeah.
They didn't want to just do one and then that plane gets shot down or stopped and then then nothing really happens.
Yeah, you got to diversify your investment.
So they were going to do it in such a way that this was going to get the end result.
I mean, that makes sense. Like the government or whatever financial central bank, it wouldn't surprise me if the central banking system was behind this whole thing, paid off Silverstein.
Right.
The government. I mean, how many days before the Pentagon was struck did Rumsfeld come out and say, "Hey, everybody, we lost $1 trillion. Don't know where it is."
It was 2 or 3. It was right before.
Right before, and then all the files that had the trace of where that $1 trillion could have been
Right.
is gone now
It's gone.
because it was in that section of the Pentagon.
Right. Well, and just to think that you have this organization called the state that actually can misplace $1 trillion. It's not misplaced. They just don't want to tell people where it is.
Right.
So so then when you get trying to people, you're going to hold agencies accountable.
That's like saying we don't know where $1 trillion is. That's like saying we don't know where King Kong is in the middle of New York City.
Yeah, it's almost laughable. And then the amount of money that's been spent on the conflict since then, aside from the loss of life, and we mentioned that there was 1 million Iraqis that have died since 9/11,
Right.
which is crazy. I mean, you got to wonder. We not to necessarily say we're Nazi Germany because we're not, but in 50 years, how is that going to be? And what we've done in the Middle East in 50 years or 100 years, how is history going to remember that?
Yeah. Well, I think in that aspect, it's going to be retold from that, that country.
Right.
Do they feel like we didn't belong there? Because I know, well, I assume that they're appreciative that we knocked out Saddam.
Well, I mean, look at the chaos that's happened since then. I mean, everything that we've done in the Middle East has done nothing but in cause more chaos.
Sure,
And
right.
so-
More rebellion,
more
more
chaos. And so, yes, you go in there and
terrorism.
it started with the Shah, I think, in the 50s. The CIA goes over there and tips over the regime, and they put their own guy in there. And I mean, nobody would like that. We wouldn't care for that. If there was a foreign government and a foreign force on our soil,
Right.
inserting their influence, even military, into our elections, that wouldn't. Nobody would like that.
Here's the deal, Ryan. If something like that happened here, all it would take is for Domino's Pizza to lower their price one more time, and I'm distracted and I don't care.
Yeah, right. Yep.
That's how that works for me.
You think so?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, crack another beer.
Yeah, Bill Burr talks about, like, McDonald's comes out with the McRib. Everybody forgets about the
Right.
conflict in the Middle East.
Right.
Yeah. So I mean,
And that maybe that kind of are part of our culture.
yeah,
might be part
I'm
of the problem.
American.
Yeah, because you can lower the price on a Domino's, and we don't even.
I'm like, oh my gosh, this Middle East crisis. Ooh,
Right.
Pepperoni for $5.99 carry out.
Right. And 1 million people have died.
Yeah,
And then right now we actually
3 topping, $7.99.
we have more military lose more military life from suicide than we do actually combat.
Yeah, that sucks.
So some of that, the end result isn't all that great.
No, I mean, I don't know of anybody who's big proponent of war.
Yeah, no.
So I don't know. It's interesting stuff, but
Yeah. It is.
it's more of a serious tone on the Tipsy Polock tonight.
It's all good.
But moving forward, we got Jarvis brought in some hot sauce.
Round 2.
Can I just say I've never actually opened anything that was like hot sauce that actually came with an eyedropper. Like that's a little intimidating.
Well,
It's not even an eyedropper either.
I think it's fitting that it's called the bomb.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, because I think that was released at the Pentagon or into the Pentagon.
Oh, hey, look at nice segue.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice job.
Nice.
Yeah. So right here it says it's the final answer. So I'm pretty sure when you try this,
So how do you try it, Jarvis? What do you do?
you just drop it right on your tongue and then in your eye.
No, we usually
Yeah, I don't believe that for a second.
have like a chicken wing or chicken nuggets or something.
Right on.
But we can dip it with the
Penises.
peanuts.
We can dip our penises in it.
That's not cool.
with the peanuts that I brought.
Oh, peanuts.
Oh, peanuts. I got you.
I completely misunderstood you, Jarvis.
No, you didn't.
Well,
How dare you
I'm
accuse
gonna let
me?
Jarvis go first, so I don't.
Well, before we
I don't
do
wanna
this,
die.
Oh,
I'm
I know
heart
what we
attack.
could do. Microwave a hot dog.
you know how fucking disgusting that sounds?
That would be better than nothing.
I know, but
Isn't that what you were gonna do?
yeah, but I'm not going to open up a thing of hot dogs that doesn't reseal.
Why?
I'm going to throw them back into my
Why not?
lunchbox.
It's only until you get home.
Freeze it.
Well, no, I get that. I get how long it's
Just freeze
going to
it.
be in there for.
Hot dogs are have like a 20-year shelf life. They'll be fine.
It's my lunchbox. It's going to smell like hot dog water.
Well,
You want to borrow my Tupperware?
Oh,
Hey,
he's
there
got
you go.
saltines.
Saltines would
Those
work.
are from like 1996.
Hold on a second.
Yeah, he's complaining about hot dog juice.
Those are from the war.
Are you gonna try it too?
Keep those in.
You'll wait until someone's on the floor passed out.
He's already tried it.
Oh,
Resealed, then I would say yeah.
I have Tupperware.
Where?
You
bet you there's a sandwich bag around here somewhere.
gross.
Why?
What's gross?
Putting it in my Tupperware after. we open it.
He's kind of being a little baby.
I know. That's that white privilege talking.
How is that?
And you could put a little tiny hole and slip one out.
I would love to hear how this is white privilege, Jarvis.
You're wasting food.
No, you're wasting food.
one of
How
those
am I
really
wasting
good.
food?
You want me to open up a whole package of hot dogs so you can put hot sauce on
Do you
one?
want me to
Wasting it.
buy that pack off of you?
Yeah.
And then I'll throw it away
I'll
right
send you
in
some-
front
I'll-
of you.
I'll send you
afterwards.
some-
Oh, and
cryptocurrency
I
for
have
it.
white privilege. I think you have white privilege.
When you grew up, did you have
Guilty.
Did you have hot dog buns, or did you put a hot dog in a piece
Bread?
of bread?
Yeah, white bread.
Yeah,
And that was occasionally. Most of the time we had buns, but
Okay.
but sometimes we
you were like upper crust Americans.
yeah,
have
upper crust Americans. That's us.
No.
Jarvis is stripping down right now. He's going to go ahead and get naked, and we're going to see if we can fit this bottle in his butt. Try to relax your anus. Ah! All right, so the beer we're going to try tonight is from Icicle Brewing in Leavenworth, Washington. It's one that I had collected a long time ago. It's a dark beer. It is a birthday cake stout, and I've actually had this for about 3 years.
Smells good.
Really good.
Yeah. So, what do you guys think?
It's really good.
Oh my gosh.
Isn't that good?
Oh, wow.
You've had that bottle for 3 years?
Yeah.
What other bottle have you had for 3 years?
I've had a Goose Island.
Goose Island what?
What's it called? Bourbon Barrel Stout, Bourbon County.
Who gave it to you?
You did, Jarvis. And I've had that for what?
3 years.
3 years?
That's a 2015 bottle.
Yep. And we're going to drink that before I move.
Wow, that is really good.
This is really good and smooth.
Yeah.
For a stout, it's surprisingly smooth.
Yeah, really.
And I can taste that chocolate in it.
Yeah.
This is like the perfect temperature to drink this.
And it's almost...
It is. It's
Yeah.
not super cold.
Yeah.
It's not room temperature. It's a little bit below.
This is how I like it.
Yeah.
I could definitely use it about 5 degrees colder, but...
Really?
Yeah, I like
See,
my beer really cold.
I don't like stouts cold.
I do too. I like my beer really cold,
Yeah?
but stouts are a different story.
Yeah.
Think so?
They taste,
Yeah.
To me, they taste better when they're warmer.
I think if you have a stout that's room temperature, it kind of releases more of that
It probably does.
that barrel
It's
flavor.
almost like a spicy...
It's like those casket beers.
That was so awesome.
Casket?
Yeah.
Cask.
What's the
Or
alcohol
cask.
on that?
One of those.
Casks. Yeah.
Which
What do you
I-
think, Mike? Great, huh? I actually picked that up in
It's-
Leavenworth.
It's aged 3 years.
It is aged 3 years in my own agery.
Are you wanting this back in your hands?
Yeah.
What percentage is that?
6.5.
Oh, that's why it's really good.
Oh yeah, it's a 6.5. The IBUs on it, the International Bitterness Units,
Yeah.
are 22.
Yeah, it's low.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good though.
Yep. The OG is 17.4 degrees,
That's actually low for a stout.
and the FG is 5.7 degrees P. Yeah, it says delicate dark chocolate with a whisper of coconut. Oh, you know what? I can taste the coconut. You don't like coconut, but you like this one. That's what kind of gives it that birthday cakey.
Yeah, but I don't like straight coconut, you know?
Yeah.
This doesn't taste like straight coconut.
Yeah. You know you want it.
Coconut?
Go ahead and
That's
indulge.
actually one of the better ones I've had in a long time.
Go ahead and indulge, Jarvis. You can finally have your German chocolate cake and drink it too. Did you know that? That's what it says right here on the bottle. There's no need to be nervous. It's just wickedly deep and full of flavor and desire.
I
with-
can taste the coconut too, can't you?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. With its proactive aroma and smooth body, this certainly the darkest of 50 shades of risque. So, it's surprisingly that's another thing too, is the aroma. The smell is just awesome.
Yeah,
Right?
it's really good.
Like you can. Yeah, I'll sniff that all day.
Yeah, I like that one. Very tasty.
Very good. Yeah, I like it. I like it. So with all that heavy talk, now I'm glad we can move on to something a little more
Sure.
light.
Only
Like,
so much of that you can take.
yeah. Well, I think after something like that, you got to go take a nap. You know what I mean? Fill your head with all these conspiracy theories, and
Right.
you just got to go lay down for a little bit, rest your noggin.
Right.
You been talking to my brother?
If I talk to your brother about this stuff for 3 minutes, I would be just drooling, just brain dead.
I know.
Why is that?
Why is that?
You're the one who said it. Why is that?
Because he is very entrenched into a lot of this conspiracy
Oh,
stuff.
gotcha.
Yeah. So's my brother. So,
Gotcha.
yeah. What were we going to do? Were you going to do 2 truths and a lie?
Yeah.
Or are we going to do Never Have I Ever?
2 truths and a lie.
Okay, we're going to do 2 truths and a lie, Ryan. This is how this works. So you're going to come up with 2 truths about yourself and 1 lie.
Oh, right.
And we have to guess which one's the lie. Okay? And then I'll go, and then Jarvis will go. And the loser has to suck the other one.
Oh, wow.
Toe. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, no, hot sauce.
Is there
No, and the loser, if you lose, you got to take a dab of hot sauce. Did you microwave a hot dog? I set them over there.
Was I supposed to do that?
I set them over there for you.
I thought we were just using the crackers.
Go fry a weenie.
Go fry a
I thought we were doing the crackers.
If you want to do,
Because
easy. You don't.
You know why?
We call us Caucasians. Okay?
You didn't want me to open up your pack of hot dogs.
I just said that because I didn't want my lunchbox smelling like hot dog water.
We do this crackers. That's fine.
Excuse me, Caucasians, please. Thank you.
Ooh, that privilege talking.
No, I just don't want to be called a name. Okay.
If you worked for Netflix, you'd be fired already.
Yeah. Well, if you work for any media company and you use a slang term against a white guy, I think you just keep getting promoted
Yeah.
to the top.
Yeah.
But it's the second you use the N word or
That's that white privilege.
yeah, and then you're done. You're behind a podium holding your box of shit.
You're on Twitter.
I'm sorry, it
Saying
was an
sorry.
insensitive comment. I shouldn't have done it. Anyway,
Yeah, we'll just use the crackers.
yeah, okay. So, who wants to go first? You go first, Jarvis. 2 truths and a lie.
Asked who wanted to go first.
Yeah, I said, who wants to go
I don't even have my-
first?
I don't
Oh,
even
and
have
you
my
had that.
questions ready.
You had that look in your eye. You had the look in your eye, Jarvis.
Rock and roll.
All right.
And you finished your beer first. That's the rule.
Oh, I did.
I was saving it for the hot sauce. I wasn't sure.
I thought you were done with your beer. That's why I downed mine.
Oh,
Man, I can taste that coconut.
That's,
Now that I read that,
yeah, it jumps out.
that's so good.
I dig it.
Nice job, Icicle Brewery.
Nice.
You win. Okay.
But
Well, maybe Ryan. Okay, just go. And
oh,
if
yeah,
I
we'll
if,
do the Ryan.
if I
This is for Ryan.
okay, this is for this is for our guest.
There we go.
I've taken a refrigerator door off its hinges while I was drunk.
Nice.
I've slept in a park on the bench while a little league team passed me.
That's
when I
pretty
woke up.
specific. That's pretty specific.
It's off the top of my head. And I've also walked home while I was drunk from Capitol Mall all the way home in Lacey.
What is the lie? Which one is the lie? This is where we need background music.
Yeah. Maybe the refrigerator door. No?
That was true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how did that story go?
I only remember bits and pieces of that night. And
Again, I think this is a pattern in your life.
But get this. I don't remember doing that. All my friends had to tell me.
Okay, hey Jarvis, you fucked my refrigerator door up. So
No, just off its hinges.
maybe you could get some help.
It went back on.
oh, it just jumped off the hinges.
Yeah.
That's a conspiracy theory.
I guess.
Probably.
It just
I-
jumped off the hinges.
Yeah, I guess I was too drunk. This was in
You
my
guess?
early 20s.
You took
by
a
the way.
refrigerator door off its hinges. I guess I was too
And
drunk.
I was stumbling over and grabbed the handle of the refrigerator door, backpedaled with the door
in your hand.
in my hand all the way into the living room onto a beanbag. And my friend said to me, "Hey, while you're down there, can you hand me a beer?"
That's funny.
Nice.
And there was some beer in the door?
Yeah.
Oh,
in the door.
funny.
That's funny. Nicely done.
Oh, the lie was the Capitol Mall one.
I thought that, but then I changed my mind.
'Cause
Yeah,
that's
that's like-
a really far away.
It is really far.
Yeah,
then
but I
didn't
think that was such a stupid lie.
because it sounded
Yeah.
like it could be true.
Well, it was like so easy. It was like I could be like, well, I once ate my weight in Godfather's Pizza.
Well, they're all drunk stories, so you're just like,
I cliff dove off a 60-foot cliff, or I currently wear a size medium.
Well, how I should have said it was, I tried walking from Capitol Mall.
Oh, right, that would have been funny.
Yeah.
Okay, so you ready?
Yeah.
I have a cousin who moved to the Middle East and became a cab driver.
Nice.
What was my first one? Oh, I had a cousin who moved to the Middle East and became a cab driver. I was a virgin until I met my wife. I once parachuted over Sao Paulo, Brazil.
Yeah, I don't think you did anything in Brazil.
Yeah, I didn't. I didn't.
Yeah, that was a valiant effort though. Nice try.
Damn it. Jarvis, yours was better than mine. Mine was dumber than yours.
What
I know.
No one's gonna say anything.
Mine was
I
way,
wanted to say something.
mine was way dumber than yours. You should have just said something. Gosh, you suck. A friend wouldn't let me say something stupid
Oh,
like that.
that's funny.
Gosh,
No, a friend would let you say something stupid like that.
you're a real turd. You understand that?
That's funny.
All right.
Uh,
Two truths and a lie. Have you been thinking about this?
Yeah, it's kind of tough though, actually.
I once flew a plane into Tower 2.
Yeah.
I guess maybe that joke will lose its charm on
Right.
some of our listeners in New York.
Yeah. Well, you can't please everybody. Okay. So how about I went through a divorce in 2005, and it cost me $800,000. For my junior year in high school, I laid on a beach and surfed and ate mangoes.
For the entire year or just like one time?
No, entire year. That's how that story's gonna go. And I became a day trader and made a really good living for a while. For like 10 years.
Is this to me?
Oh, I don't know.
It'll be to both of us.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you guess, and then I'll guess, and then you tell.
Sure.
Okay. I think it is the first one.
What? Which was what?
Oh, the
The
divorce?
yeah, the divorce.
And I don't believe you have a 10-inch wiener.
Oh, you're right. It's 12.
I'm gonna go with the first one as well.
Yeah. You think so?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's true.
Okay. Well, I didn't know. I didn't know the numbers,
Yeah.
so I was like, I don't know.
Yeah, the first two were true. So, yes, I did go through divorce when I was 25, and it cost me a small fortune.
Yeah.
And then,
Apparently.
yeah, my mom and dad were missionaries when I was in high school, so I did lay on a beach and eat mangoes and surf. I was a day trader, but I never made a living at it, so that was the lie.
Gotcha. Ooh.
That was a pattern. Did you guys know that?
All three of us.
All three of us, the first two were true.
Hell yeah.
I wonder what that says about our personalities. Like, are we terrible? Are we terrible liars?
Yeah, the truth is easy, right?
The truth is easy.
You just rattle it off, and then you got to
Like,
put some effort
what could
into
I
the
say?
lie.
What could I say?
Well, I was trying to throw you guys off.
Hey, let's play 3 lies. Okay, you ready? Go ahead.
That's a lot of work.
I hate you.
Thanks.
No.
I mean, that's a lie, right? If you were to have some secret identity, like let's say Secret Service came to you and were like, "Hey, your family's in danger. We need you to pick out a new identity, a new life, all that stuff, who would you become? Like, who would you create yourself to be?
Oh wow! Like a whole new name and everything,
Whole new everything.
and where I live and stuff.
Yep. You cannot live in Washington anymore.
Okay. My name would be. Then this is hard.
Yeah.
Right on the spot too.
You look like a Kevin.
Kevin.
Calvin.
Calvin.
Bryce. He looks like Bryce.
A Bryce.
I could see you as a Tanner.
What would you name me? Seriously.
What would I name you?
Raindrop.
Ranger.
Yeah. Raindrop. Love child.
I would make my last name Jarvis.
Oh, you can't.
Oh, damn it.
Yeah. It's just too close. That'd be a dope last name, though. Your
Yeah.
first name, Little? Little Jarvis?
Little John.
You could be a rapper. Lil Jarvis.
No. Jollet.
Oh, Jaw Lit.
No.
J Liddy.
My gamer tag.
Okay, so you would be a... What's your new career? Let's start there. Let's not start with the names. Let's start with your career. Where do you work? You're an IT specialist for where? Best Buy? Okay.
Google.
Oh, you're working for Google, the largest internet company?
For Best Buy? No, for, let's say,
You want to work for Google? I'll work for Google.
Okay,
Sit in a
Google.
beanbag chair and mess with my laptop all day? Mm-hmm.
yep, for Google.
Yeah, sign me up. What about you? Where are you working?
Probably New York.
Really? You're moving to New York? Fuck that. But anyway, where at? I mean,
Like for what?
yeah.
Like, so this is just a whatever.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I would probably like Harvey Specter off Suits. That would be cool.
Oh,
right?
okay.
Yeah, corporate attorney in New York,
Okay. So they just give you a...
corner office, and a lot of money. Yeah.
Yeah, but you actually have to go to trial. What are you going to do? Show up and be like, nah.
Well, you didn't say we had to know what we were gonna do, right? You got to have the skills already. No.
Well, I mean, if the FBI comes down and they give you an alternative life, but you get to pick it, and you pick, okay, I'm a corporate attorney.
Gotcha.
At some point, you're going to end up in trial,
Oh,
and and the mic's going to be on you, and the whole world is all
Yeah.
eyes on you.
Oh, I bullshit my way right through that.
Yeah. Here we have a classic case of Atkinson versus Timothy.
Timothy.
I don't know.
That's funny.
Like, how do you BS your way through a trial?
Well, yeah, no, there's no BS in your way through that, I guess.
Fruit Loops is at fault, Your Honor.
Yeah, I settle.
Oh, settle out of court on every single.
everything.
I think we should settle.
think we
Like
should
that's
settle.
how every
Right, that's funny.
that's how every one of your corporate attorney meetings would go.
I
Hey, I don't want to jump the
And
Jump
you
the
can't get
shark.
fired, right? Because the FBI has you there, right?
yeah. I don't want to jump the shark, but I think we should settle
Yeah.
on this.
A plea deal.
It's
I surrender.
what they're coming at us with is a really strong thing, and if this goes to trial, it's gonna. I think we should settle.
Oh, that'd be funny.
It's an ironclad case. Yeah,
How
but
about
still.
gas stations in New York? They make a lot of money, right?
Well, I don't know, man. I've been in a couple. And they don't look very.
Well, it depends. But
Oh,
yeah,
I'm sure. Yeah,
that'd be fun.
I could see you doing a real estate thing,
Yeah, for sure.
being a real estate guy in New York.
Buildings. There's some property for sale in Panama. I'd move to Panama in a heartbeat.
Yeah, you know what it takes to sell real estate.
Yeah. For sure. That'd be fun.
Brass balls.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh. Mine are fine.
Brass are better.
And how about you, Nate?
With my skill set, I'm probably gonna be like a garbage man or something. Like
They make good money, don't they?
yeah. No,
I mean,
I
I can
think
see you like in Florida doing a podcast or something.
yeah, I think I'd be a podcaster in Miami.
Stop trolling.
I would be. I would just go down to L.A. and I don't know, man. That's what I want to do anyway.
Yeah, that'd be. Yeah, why not?
Yeah, go down to Los Angeles, have a podcast that fails miserably.
Hey, I would be in Cali with you.
That'd be awesome.
Because Google.
Oh, yeah, cool. Let's
Oh, they
do
have a
this. Do
bunch
it.
of- What?
Cali.
No, too hot.
You just. Okay. Yeah. All right.
This is a hypothetical question.
Did you just have a Spanish accent?
You can kind of.
Hypothetical.
That beer got to me.
Hypothetical. What's your favorite kind of food, Ryan?
Probably Mexican.
That's wrong. It's Italian. What about you, Jarvis?
I like it all though.
Soul food. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh,
Korean.
really?
Yeah.
That's your favorite kind of food?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Why, wow.
I mean, it's just surprising.
How?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think, like, my favorite kind of food isn't Polish food.
Because it's not good.
Yeah, because Polish food sucks. It's like bacon and rice. It's a lot of cabbage.
Do you like Korean food?
I do like Korean food.
But your favorite's Mexican
Either Mexican or it's Mexican.
or Italian?
I'm not kidding myself. It's
Mm.
Mexican. I could live in Mexico. Oh, there we go. I'm moving to Mexico,
There you go.
and I'm gonna be a bullfighter.
Perfect.
I'm gonna eat those corns on the stick. You ever had those? The corns on the stick with the
Yeah.
crema,
Yeah.
with the crema and
Mm-hmm.
the crumbles and the Taiwan
Mhm.
seasoning, and
Yeah, I've had it.
I'm gonna go fight a bull.
You're dead.
They're gonna they're gonna throw flowers at me.
This is sounding more and more like Ferdinand's story.
I wish you'd shut up. You're on my podcast. This is my show. You remember that scene in Goodfellas where Joe Pesci is sitting there with Henry Hill? Have you seen Goodfellas?
Nope.
Are you kidding me, guys?
You already know I haven't seen
Yeah.
it.
I know you haven't, okay?
I read
It's
books.
like I haven't had Korean food until you were my friend.
See?
No, you're a liar. I watched Goodfellas with you.
No, we never
Yeah,
watched
we
it.
did. We watched Goodfellas, and you were like, that's good.
You were thinking about your other black friend.
No, I wasn't.
His name is Trell.
I didn't watch Goodfellas with Trell. Me and Trell talk about Goodfellas all the
No,
time.
I never watched it.
Yes, you did.
I swear.
Me, you, and Leanne.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yes.
No.
Dude, Goodfellas with Ray Liotta.
I've never seen it, Nate.
Yes, you have.
Oh my goodness.
Is that the one where he's laughing like a crazy person in the restaurant? They
Yeah.
always show that.
Yeah.
clip.
Yeah.
It's like
And,
on
the-
100 memes.
and then Joe Pesci's like, what's so funny? Because he was laughing at Joe Pesci's joke.
Oh.
And Joe Pesci kind of gets serious. He's this wise guy, you know?
Yeah, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Shut the fuck up.
I'm serious. I'm trying to tell you the truth.
You're not telling me the truth.
I've
I
never
watched,
watched
it.
it with you.
I watched it on your laptop with you.
No, because I don't even have that movie.
You do. You gave that movie to me.
Did I?
Yes.
But I've never seen it.
Wow.
So he's sitting there in the restaurant.
Or The Godfather.
I haven't seen The
I
Godfather.
know you haven't seen The Godfather. I know you haven't seen Scarface.
Or
You-
Scarface.
I have.
I
seen
know,
Scarface.
but-
Oh, maybe I've seen Goodfellas. Maybe
You
it was Scarface
motherfucker.
and- maybe it was Scarface and Godfather.
Yes, I know. We watched Goodfellas together.
Well, I don't remember Goodfellas.
Have you seen
Okay,
Reservoir
that's-
Dogs?
That's a great movie too.
What dog?
Like a Reservoir?
What
Yeah.
dog?
Yeah, I've seen
What
that.
happened?
What happened?
Something broke. I'm bleeding out.
Oh, dude, that was a great movie. You know. No, but that scene where Henry Hill, Ray Liotta's character, is laughing, and he's laughing at Joe Pesci's character, and Joe Pesci turns to him and just gets serious, and he goes, "What are you laughing at?" He goes, "Nothing, you know.
Yeah.
You're funny, you know. You're a funny guy." He was like, "Funny like what? Like I'm a clown?
Nice.
Do I amuse you?" And it just kind of shifts like this crazy tone. It was a great scene.
That's awesome.
It was a really great scene. But Anyway, yeah. So, I guess that's about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's going to be a lot of editing.
Rock and roll.
Are we doing this?
Oh, shit.
Oh, yeah.
Or-
We need the hot dogs.
Are we? You want to do it with hot dogs?
Oh, wait, don't.
I'm not doing it.
Yes,
oh,
you are.
Don't be a puss.
I'm not doing it.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
Well, let's hurry up because
We can do it off the podcast.
no, we might as well.
Yeah. If the crackers are there, that's
Okay.
Yeah, we're recording.
it don't matter.
So Jarvis, why don't you intro this hot sauce
Hold on.
that's made by the devil?
It's about to get
a
spicy.
hot sauce here. It's called the Bomb. It's created by Lucifer himself.
What's the unit? I can't even remember what that unit's called.
Scoville.
Yeah. How many? Like 3 or 4?
You don't have to. You just want a crack? Oh, you don't want a cracker.
Hey, how many Scoville is it?
It's actually really low for what it is.
It's Okay, guys, update on the Scoville unit. Jarvis says, and it's official, it's actually really low for what it is.
Yep.
That's the official number.
All right. The official number is only 1.5 million Scoville.
1.5 million?
Take a little more than that, Nate.
No. No.
Or have Ryan dip.
It's a large number.
It's not that bad. How much did you do? Oh, that's good. More than Nate.
Yeah, it's good. It's more than 8.
We're gonna see like snot come out of your nose in a minute. You're gonna be dying.
This is the dumbest thing I've ever done.
Is that about more?
Is it really that hot?
No, it's not that bad.
It came with
It's
an
not that bad.
eyedropper. I'm putting that out there.
It's not an eyedropper.
It's not
just
even a full 1 ounce bottle.
It's true. So a little.
How
goes a
much
long
did that
ways.
bottle cost? $25?
Yeah, about that.
Damn.
It's hot.
This better make me feel good until tomorrow.
Maybe.
All right, guys.
Cheers.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Crackers up. Whatever. Cheers.
All right. How is it, guys?
It's a little warm.
That gave me the hiccups.
Oh,
you got the
hiccups.
I'm sweating.
What did you think, Ryan?
That's a little warm.
How about you, Nate?
I'm dying.
Keeps getting hotter.
Yeah. What was hotter, Nate? This, the bomb, or the one prior?
This.
Podcast is over.
Wow.
Looking a little rosy over there, Nate.
I think Nate about died.
Whew. I'm still. My mouth is on fire.
Still?
Still.
Really? Like,
Mine is
my
warm
throat.
like I ate a big piece of big red gum or something.
Really?
yeah.
Mine's,
You must have bit into a seed or
I
something.
don't know. It feels like the devil shit on my tongue. I feel like I licked a house fire.
Oh, we got 3-degree burns over here.
Oh, seriously. My
That's
nose
hilarious.
is running. I almost puked. Ryan, tell me about being a missionary and hot foods.
That's quite the segue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know you have a fucking story.
Yeah, so we were missionaries when I was in high school in Papua New Guinea, which is just north of Australia. It's about a 4 or 5 hour plane ride. So it's hot. You're almost on the equator. Growing season is all year, never stops. So we had a little garden with all kinds of peppers, and it was kind of fun. We grew peppers, green bell peppers, the size of footballs, and
That's crazy.
it was a lot of fun. We went over to dinner, invited to dinner. Family was from India and had asked my mom if we like hot food, and didn't think anything of it. Yeah, we love hot food, which Mexican hot food's a little different than Indian hot food.
Oh, really?
And, oh my goodness, it was so hot. It was really good. It tasted amazing, chicken and rice and all that stuff. But my God, it was hot. just sweating at dinner, and they're just eating it like it was,
Like it was
top
nothing.
ramen or something.
Wow.
Ridiculous.
Top ramen's hella hot though. right off the stove. Ah.
Temperature hot.
Yeah. The roof of my mouth and my tongue are numb.
Yeah.
Like there's a layer of numbness.
It's hard for you to
You kind of
talk.
look like
huh?
you're almost in panic mode there.
Oh, it was. It was like a bunch of homeless people moved in and then just started a fucking structure fire on my tongue. And I couldn't kick them out
But
because of the squatting laws.
You
That's
you
awesome.
panicked more on the one before this one. Remember when you were pacing
It's
back
pretty
and forth?
hot.
This was so hot. 1.5 million Scoville. Hottest shit I ever had in my
know what?
life.
Breakfast burritos. That would be really good in breakfast burritos. Just a little bit, right? Just a little bit.
Are you retarded? Do you not remember how bad that hurt? Who wants a breakfast burrito that kicks him in the nuts? That's ridiculous. This is something you do off a dare, not for enjoyment.
I didn't say that much. Just a little bit. Just to
It's a
add
challenge. Well, you know what this would be really good for is a breakfast burrito. You're about to call in sick.
Oh, that's funny.
You have that on your breakfast burrito. You're not
Maybe we
doing
should
anything.
Pick this back up when the color returns to your face.
Red is a color. Oh my gosh.
That's awesome.
I've like this more and more mucus.
Yeah. And whenever you swallow your spit, is it hot?
Yes.
When it goes down?
Yes, it's like lava, like I'm swallowing lava. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But there's a layer of, it's like numb on the top of the roof of my mouth.
How much did you get?
Not very much. Like probably less than both of you.
Yeah, it was a little bit less. He must have gotten a seed.
You must have.
That's what I get for trying to take less.
Yeah, karma, bitch.
Like, oh, I'm just going to throw that seed on your tongue. Oh. Well, you got that missionary tongue. That's why you can
sounded really
That's why you
dirty.
can handle it.
Yeah,
And Jarvis has that soul tongue.
there you go. Nothing
Yep.
like traveling the world and getting a taste for different foods, right?
Yeah. Taste for different foods. I didn't taste shit. I tasted molten lava.
No.
And saltine cracker.
No.
You didn't even taste that?
No.
Oh, I tasted that.
No, it felt like I licked a campfire.
Yeah, it had no real flavor.
The only spot on my tongue that's still hot is right where it touched it. That got hot. Where it.
Yeah, it got real hot. Oh my gosh, guys.
That's funny.
Well, half of this podcast was interesting. And I want to remind everyone to like us on Facebook, like our Facebook page, follow us on Instagram and Twitter. Check out our YouTube channel if you want to listen to us that way. Sorry, I'm all jacked up.
And Podbean.
Yeah, Podbean. If you have the Podbean app, we are available on Podbean as well as iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play. Anything else that I'm forgetting?
No, I think we'll be on... They have Google Podcasts now.
Google Podcasts. We're going to be on Google Podcasts.
Coming soon.
If you have any questions or you want to write into the show, feel free to write us. The email address is thetipsypolock@gmail.com. Oh, did I say Instagram?
Yeah, you said IG.
Yeah. Hook us up on IG. Follow us on IG. We'll follow you back. Yeah, other than that, I am the Tipsy Polock. I'm Nate.
I'm Jarvis.
And Ryan.
And we got our guest, Ryan. And we will see you next week. And I'm not doing this hot sauce shit anymore because that's fucking ridiculous.
Yes,
So-
you will.
Oh, and a couple shout outs. I just before we get off, I want to give a couple shout outs to I want to give shout outs to New York. I want to give shout outs to Canada. We have our first subscribers in Canada, Germany, South Korea. I want to give a shout out to our 16 subscribers in Maryland, all the way over in Maryland. We got some in New York. What are our other new places?
Oh, new?
Yeah, brand new. Anyway, I just wanted to share some love. So hit us up on the social media and all that stuff. All right, love y'all. Later.